get the
obviously,
pre-stained floors and put it on the opposite direction to get it done, right on top of
but
this.
obviously, I'm not saying next week, I just wanted it on the record someplace for people not to forget about it. So.
No, it'll be substantial to.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I know Tom had people in to check it out at one point. He got quotes.
Yeah. All right, I'll follow I'll follow up on
Okay. So anyway, candidates night, yay or nay?
Adam, are we ready? All right. Thank you, Ellen. Go ahead now.
Okay, so, the questions have come up about candidates night, and, yay or nay, how and when, that kind of thing. I think some of the people I've been talking to, having it here is, I don't believe is an option. Usually candidates night has more people than deliberative session. We couldn't have deliberative session here, that had to be at the school. But a lot of people are saying we could have a Zoom meeting and do it that way. That way you could have it, if the board's interested in a Zoom meeting, then I think that we want to get out to the public that they can either send their questions, because usually you don't have people just arbitrarily stand up and ask questions that night. They're handed in ahead of time. So we'd have to get out to the public, get enough information out to the public to let them know that they could either bring in questions and leave them like in a Dropbox at either the Selectmen or Tammy's office to be looked at, or send an email to the Selectmen for Susan to get and forward to me and do it that way. If someone has a better idea, let me know.
What about using the school again?
Well, I mean, that's the other option, but I don't know about the school and whether or not you have to pay for their staff to be there, and you still have to allow it to be Zoom. So if you're gonna allow it to be Zoom anyway, maybe just do it Zoom.
I think you get more people on Zoom than going to the meeting.
Well, especially now where they're talking about, that English variant is becoming more prevalent. They expect it to, there's all types of stuff going on. Let people are starting to get their shots. Let's not, 2 weeks before people can get vaccines, have some sort of, super spreader event, because coming to see you all talk would be so popular, we just would have to turn people away.
Well, obviously they'd have to put masks.
Well, obviously, and because it's not actually an election, we wouldn't have to set up places for people who didn't want to wear masks. It's a school, you'd have to wear a mask, they require it, and it's nothing to do with the election per se. It's not a deliberative session, it's not voting, so you could require masks. But the better part of Valor would probably wind up being Zoom, I would think. We have a selectmen's race and we have a budget committee. I don't know if there's anything going on the school, on the Kingston side of the school. I haven't heard anything. I obviously could look into it.
I think there is. I think there's a couple contested. Yeah, I think there might be.
They have a budget committee opening too in the school.
Yeah, so I think it would be best to do all Zoom, because by the time you go through the trouble of going through school and everything else, if it's going to be Zoom, might as well just do it all Zoom.
And here's the other thing. If we have bad weather, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about canceling it and rescheduling it if you have a storm. I mean, it will be in February. I'm thinking, based on schedules and stuff, that the last Tuesday in February will probably wind up being the date. Because there's no meeting that night. There's no planning board meeting. Yeah, so the fourth Tuesday, the 23rd. That gives everybody enough time before the election, but it's also not a night when there's a meeting.
But that's 2 weeks, Ellen.
Is there a, did you say it's the 23rd? What about the 30th? Is there a Tuesday? Oh, no, we're
There's
February.
no 30th.
We're February, I forgot.
You have a March 2nd.
I'm actually working.
March 2nd, the planning board meets.
Okay.
So that's why I thought that
Because the
Tuesday,
election is the 9th.
the last Tuesday would wind up being the right time frame. Obviously, you'd have to get on it very quickly to let people know about it, but.
Or you do it Thursday the 25th. Doesn't have to be a Tuesday night, does
No, I think Thursday the 25th would also work, because I believe that we've been told that Newton's having it on a Wednesday. So if we did it on a Thursday, there's no meeting on that date. I was just trying to pick a day that there wasn't necessarily a meeting who's gonna be doing Zoom, and then we couldn't do it. So, I can
I have to look, I think, HDC or Heritage, I forget which is on the fourth.
It might be the, it's not the HDC.
But they're on Zoom.
right, which means we couldn't do it.
Oh, because you want Zoom, because you want to use ours,
Yes.
okay.
What I'd like to do, if we could, is whatever we decide tonight, because we do this every year, we're up against a gun to our head for candidates night. So I think, we're already got the gun to our head. Whatever we pick, let's plan on it for the same thing next year. If it's the Tuesday, 2 week before the election, or the Thursday, that's what we should plan on, that we should start getting notices out to people,
If we have contested races.
Yeah.
Why?
Because,
We may do it anyways, you think?
We should always do it anyway, because we've always provided the opportunities for candidates to, even if they're running unopposed, they can at least present their platform.
yeah.
So,
Because it's always been this way, we do it the last minute, it would be good to just have it.
But because of this, I will ask the Board of Selectmen if we can get on this quickly. I might need Susan's help for a few minutes and Tammy's help for a few minutes to get addresses and emails and ways to contact people and that kind of thing, if that's okay.
So we should pick a date tonight where we're being televised. Let's start tonight.
Tuesday or Thursday?
It doesn't matter.
What was the Thursday? The reason why, because again, Carriagetown gives us 2 weeks.
Yeah, but I think Thursday you have a meeting already.
Yeah, but the Heritage Committee maybe can meet earlier, or they can get another, I know Debbie Powers has a Zoom too.
Last time they
Doesn't
used
have to be
their
the
own.
town Zoom.
So they might be able to get by with hers, they did last time.
That's
We had-
correct.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
Yes.
so we can talk to them about that, I think they'll be here tonight, actually.
Okay. So we can do it that Thursday as long as there's no weird conflict with Heritage.
What are we picking for night?
That was,
Thursday the 25th, which is the fourth Thursday of the month.
yeah,
25th of February. What we're
Yeah.
gonna do,
And usually there's no conflict that night, like, other than the Heritage.
and then what time, 6, 6:30, 7?
we're gonna do
I do
we're gonna do
7.
a meeting or we're gonna do a Zoom?
Zoom,
When I do
Zoom.
my Zoom, I do it at 7.
7? No, I was just asking, 'cause I didn't hear you.
7.
7 o'clock, okay.
Then once people get home, have their dinners,
Yeah.
whatever.
And I would just ask,
Tammy?
I'm sorry?
I was asking Tammy if that works.
Oh. I think having it the following Thursday is too late.
I
The
volunteer.
following Thursday would also be open, where you mentioned the first week in March, but I think that's too late.
yeah, I think it gives enough time, I don't know.
And normally you would have that as school vacation week, but
Oh, shoot.
Normally what?
we're not,
do they have vacations anymore?
Yeah, we got in trouble from having it in school vacation week last time. What's school vacation week?
School vacation is the last week of February.
Thank you. I remember the last time we had it the last week in February, where we weren't thinking about it. We got a
where's
lot-
anyone going?
That's a
Epic.
good point. And again, it's by Zoom.
They're
They
not getting
can-
on
they
a
can-
plane and going to Florida.
They
Well,
can
they
still,
would.
even
Maybe they
even
are.
if they're going someplace, they can join in by Zoom.
You could
Okay.
you could do the 20.
I think we did it the week prior last time, and a lot of people said that wasn't enough time for them to really do their research.
So it's either gonna be the 29th or the 4th. And I think the 4th might be too close.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Thursday before elections.
Yeah, I think that's close, so
So-
I think we should stick with the,
Next week then is what you're saying.
what?
Saying next week.
No, I think the 29th, the one we were talking about.
25th.
25th.
Oh, the 25th, oh, okay.
Because these are gonna be the 25th or like March 4th, but I think March 4th is running a little late.
So we could get that on the website tomorrow, and can you
And
get it
Adam's
to Carriagetown?
Adam's in tomorrow morning, so he
Get
can
it
put
into
it,
Carriagetown for next week.
Yeah,
and Adam's in tomorrow, so we can get it on the cable.
okay.
And you guys can have the call the candidates and then.
Yeah, and I'll get information
gotta
from Susan and Tammy to try and work that out, and we'll figure out from the school if there's anyone in a, Kingston
How do you
position.
wanna do the format of the questions? I mean, how?
I'm gonna do it very similar to how for the questions, I think they either need to send it in to Susan by email, if they want to, but that way people, will have an address. Or, we'll have to have it in by, I think if I
Okay,
have
well,
it,
let's talk about this tomorrow.
yeah,
Or Wednesday, one of the other.
As long as we have the date tonight, we can figure out the little specifics
Logistics.
tomorrow. Tomorrow will work. I don't
Probably be
really-
better if we weren't involved since two of us are gonna
Huh?
be participating.
Yeah, you guys can't vote. You can't vote. So as long as everybody's good with that date, good with Zoom, that's how we'll proceed. And then we'll make sure everybody's invited, we'll double check with the school to see if there's any Kingston positions that's being challenged, and, we'll go from there. Does that sound good with everybody?
Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan. And then we'll plan it the same thing next year. It'll be the Thursday, 2 weeks before election.
Okay, that is school vacation, that's the only thing.
Oh, it is?
Unless something comes up with, next year maybe, well, but if we
Do it
know
the week
about it ahead
before or
of time,
something?
do it the week before. You know, if it's planned ahead of time.
Yeah, that was my point, is we need to plan it ahead of time.
So.
We can go for the third Thursday next year.
Yeah, we should just set the date when the enrollment period's
You know, we can
open.
announce it at the Liberty session, and
Yeah.
everybody will know.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Thank you.
You ready there, Dick Tracy?
It was a shoe, was it? No, that's Maxwell Smart.
Hello. I asked to be on the agenda tonight to talk about meeting minutes from all the different departments and committees here in Kingston, which we have somewhere around 15 of them that have, from what I can see, have come to assume that if they email it to Susan, they're done. But I am the keeper of the records, and by law, I need a paper copy. So I have found that some committees and boards, as of 2017, I have no more. None. No more meeting minutes.
You need it within how much time from after that meeting?
I believe it's 5 days or 72, it's so many
It's 5
hours.
business days.
Yeah.
So do you scan them, or do you actually maintain paper minutes?
I have to, by law, keep them by paper or microfilm. So even though they're scanned and they're on our website and available on our website, I have to keep a paper copy or a microfilm copy. And as far as I know, Kingston doesn't have microfilm, so. I was hoping,
Can I see a list of 15 committees that we have?
you certainly may.
Yeah, I'm doing
Could we
math.
have our Susan send out a memo to all the chairs?
Well, that's what I was hoping.
Yeah, we should do that. I put them on notice that they need to provide a physical and electronic copy of the minutes.
Yeah.
Just double check to make sure that that's the time period, because we have to comply with the right to know law.
Yep.
Yeah, it's 5 business days, Chief.
Is it 5?
5 business. So like, for example, the ZBA meets on a Thursday night, they have till the following Thursday to have it in.
So it would be my suggestion that the selectmen draft a notice to all the boards and committee saying that they have to be hand delivered to myself. And I would also suggest that it's their responsibility to come to me, where's my file? Here it is, okay, since 2017. Now they can print off all the minutes since then and make sure their file is accurate.
How do I join the grievance committee?
I beg your pardon?
How do I join the grievance committee?
You know,
I have some.
I do too.
I don't think they've ever met.
You probably have more than him.
Years ago.
I found meeting minutes from 2014 where Ernie Landry actually brought it up before the selectmen to say, should we reinstate it? And I think it was decided that it would be formed again when there was a need, but there were actually people appointed, and it's in like the town report, and they had to sign an oath and everything.
I never knew that, I'm sure the ZBA.
So that's 2 committees I found out about this evening.
Okay.
Well, there you go. But the grievance only meets if something happens.
Then they're appointed, and that was enacted by town meeting vote.
Right.
So, Tammy, can you send us a list of who is delinquent as well?
Well, how
I
about
think we all are.
Pretty much everybody. Yep, truthfully, Ellen Faulkner brings me minutes every week, and the trustees of the trust fund bring me minutes.
And other than that, nobody.
That's it.
So you want them in paper, you don't want them sending you electronic.
I would prefer only because then I'm printing out stuff every day, you know, so, but, yeah, there are a lot of missing documents from my files. So, and we can't go back 30 years, but
2017 is a good starting point.
So, as we upgrade our technology infrastructure, is there a more efficient way to do that?
I think the law still calls for paper copies.
So, it's according to the RSA, I never mind, you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I asked if we,
Because it would be nice to digitize everything and
Yeah.
not have mountains of papers.
yeah, so it's minutes must be kept and on request not more than 5 days after the public meeting, and they have to be a paper copy, so.
and how long are you gonna maintain those minutes?
I have them from like ever.
I can't believe we can't scan them.
We need to get the legislature and actually ask them for a regulation that might be beneficial to the towns. Wouldn't that be a novel approach?
Well, I think regardless, we should digitize in anticipation of the state moving into the future at some point.
To the
Present.
19th
To
century.
the present.
Well, she's got minutes and stuff in there that go way back to the 1800s.
Right.
I was able to dig back through there. We had a body, bones we found.
Right.
And I found out who the person was and how this person died. And, remember?
Right, yeah. So,
Did you know?
That was an old farm down off Door Road.
Were you in the minutes of it?
No. A couple years after that.
people do occasionally come and ask for minutes, and I'll pull out the file, and there's like an agenda, and then nothing, and then, just all kind of, and it's too bad. I know I go online a lot of times if I'm looking for something, but if it's older than whenever we started putting them online, then I should have as much as I can in those. And if people have documents and files at home, that's really not the place for them to be. They're supposed to be in my office.
Yeah, we need to, people that have files at home need to bring them into the town hall. Those days are at home and done.
Right.
Definitely done.
And then also just to remind them, and maybe at the same time, is that when they appoint someone or someone gets elected to their forwarder committee, they need to come see me to get sworn in, because they shouldn't be voting on anything without being sworn in.
So do you have a list of everyone that needs to be sworn in?
I have a pile of oaths downstairs, and they're supposed to do it within 30 days.
Does the legislation still allow for the moderator to also swear in?
Yes,
Okay.
you're more than welcome to.
I'm not a moderator anymore.
Oh, that's true.
Ellen is though, Ellen is.
I'm sending them right to you, Jan.
I thought that should have been eliminated because we started having people come in to talk about themselves, and then we sign it right then and there and send them
It's
downstairs.
for committee appointments.
To appoint them, but then they gotta swear, they're
Starting
gonna
about
uphold
They
the,
have-
Oh, okay.
The oath of office.
You're gonna have a few more
yeah.
after
You wanna give us,
tonight.
Okay.
you wanna give us a copy of those and make sure those people that need to be
Yep,
sworn in?
I can send a list over to Susan, and when you send that memo out to the chairs, they can,
Oh yeah, the farm people from your committee have not been technically sworn in, that's
Right.
great.
right. Okay, and then the one last thing is, I've been approached by a, teacher at the high school who is looking for volunteers to speak to her students in her civics class via Zoom about elections and your role at an election. So if anyone would like to participate, just come see me, and she's looking for some volunteers. So,
You know when it is, ma'am?
I don't think she's set a date, but she's just, like I said, looking for someone. I talked to the Secretary of State about, showing them the voter registration application and an application for an absentee ballot and, stuff like that, just to kind of show them.
I'll do it, let me know.
Okay. All right. Get your name out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Okay, next up, we have the Kingston Days Committee. Pass that.
Which one?
Okay. Hi, good evening.
The committee met last month to talk about whether or not we're gonna move forward with it in, August. And we had a couple different ideas. One was possibly doing it like one day. We talked about spacing, and we needed to get your blessing. So Charlotte put something on the Facebook page, you may have seen it, and asked the people if they would come, if we had it. And we got over 200 responses, I think close to 300. And it was the feeling of pretty much everybody there that they wanted to do it the full time, the 2 or the 3 days, and just continue like we've had it, because people are gonna be getting the shots, and I think most people want us to move forward, and we're just looking to see if.
How many volunteers did you get out of that 200 people? I didn't see too many. I saw what people wanted, I didn't see too many people stepping up.
We can go back and ask, that's a good suggestion. So we just wanted to see what your feelings were.
I think it's gonna depend upon what the state rolls out there at that time, you know what I mean? They still want you to do the 6 feet social distance, only so many people at this time. So I can call tomorrow, see if there's been any changes, but I haven't seen that they've changed large groups.
There's a lot of preparation that goes into it.
Right, that.
We actually have to start now and outlay money, and that was our fear. We don't want to outlay the money if we can.
If the board would like, I can call tomorrow just to tell them, we would like to think about doing this. What are their thoughts on that? And to see what the state tells me if you want.
Yeah, I think that's important to do that. I mean, I don't think there is anyone in this room that would love to see it again this year, because it does bring the community together, and yes, it's a lot of work, and God love you guys on the committee. I know it's a lot of work, but people are hungry for that kind of community interaction. Yeah. But we have to be responsible with COVID, and so we're in a catch-22 here. It's hard to say, but if we can at least find out what the numbers are going down, there's no question about that. But I'd hate to see a backlash in an outbreak because we moved too quickly, because the vaccines didn't get out fast enough and all that. It's just.
So if you want to give me a call at the station tomorrow, I'll make a couple of calls.
All right.
I'll see what the state tells us.
Okay.
The numbers are going down. More people are getting vaccinated. I just got my second shot.
Yeah.
So the more people that do that, more people that social distance and wear masks, it's going to keep going down, hopefully.
Richard would like to say something about this. Go ahead, Richard.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 things that came up last year that we said we were going to talk to the Kingston Day Committee about. One is they changed the weekend, which really made a lot of people upset because they planned vacations around that weekend. And the other one was that they called Kingston Days off without consulting with the selectmen at all. So I thought those 2 points should be made. The sound out here is terrible. You can hardly hear anybody. So you may have covered that, but those are 2 points we said last year we wanted to bring up.
Well, I can speak to the changes. It was the 350th, so we combined that with Kingston Days, and that's why we didn't have it last year, but the prior year. That's why we did it in a longer span of time. And I didn't hear his other question.
Yeah, the decision to shut it down, I think, he wanted, I think, if I heard him correctly.
Traditionally, Kingston Days is the first weekend in August, first full weekend in August. And that it had been changed to accommodate committee members, and that can't be done. That's not appropriate to do that. But that's what we were told. Yeah, we didn't change though. It's just, was it the 325th or the 350th? I can't remember.
Yeah, that was the year before, it was last year's.
Yeah. The Kingston Days weekend is the first weekend, the first full weekend. That Friday, Saturday, Sunday has to be August 1, 2, 3 or later. Yeah. Because that's the first weekend in our full weekend in August, and people do plan vacations, and family members from out of town and grandkids and all that stuff come into town to play. Yeah.
I know we're going to be running into the same thing with the boat races. You'll see correspondence in there.
Yeah, that was in September, though, wasn't it?
It is.
September, yeah.
he did come in to see us last week, and wanted to get permission to do that as well, so I think I'll ask for that as well, and see what it looks like for Kingston Days.
We also put in for a few people to get sworn into.
Yes, we have some appointment forms.
Yeah. Okay.
So typically we have people in, but I think we've kind of curtailed that with COVID. So they good people? I guess back to the Kingston Days thing. I think we need to follow the state's guidance on this, but I also think, you know, they need to start planning. And whether it's a scaled down version, I think we should plan on this, you know, meeting the state requirements, but, you know, we've put money aside for fireworks, we've put money aside for certain things. You know, there are some things that don't require people being near each other in order to still have them.
Yeah, you could watch fireworks from your car, you could do a number of different things.
I think, you know, Paul Butler's a great resource in this. I mean, he's been great at coming up with these rec ideas.
Yeah, he actually joined our committee.
Yeah, he's one of the.
Yeah, I saw his name on there, and
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Paul's been really good at coming up with things that don't require a whole ton of resources and can be dropped at the last minute, but, you know, still kind of follow those guidelines. So I would also, you know, include him on, you know, the guidance that the chief comes up with for you.
Okay, we'll be in touch tomorrow then.
Yeah, so we'll sign these tonight, and you can let everybody know they can come in and see Tammy and get sworn in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in. All right, next up, we have Art Walensky with a conservation presentation.
We were supposed to come in a little before 7 and set up, but you were in session, so if you could give us a second.
Sure.
Is this one? Oh.
I've got the Zoom meeting going on here. Over here?
Yeah, well, actually, it'll throw quite a bit, so actually we can even put it over closer. Closer. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you worked with this projector before?
This goes under here.
Sometimes you have to.
Yes, we tried it out.
Geo Insight.
That's the power. Yeah. Let's see if we can get it going. Huh? Yeah, I think so. Let's stand up here to see with all the lights on. Turn the lights down a little.
I mean, can you kill, that one set of lights right behind you there? Just the front ones from here. Thank you.
Is that large enough? Okay. Okay, my name is Art Walensky, and I'm from neighboring Raymond. About 2009.
Wait a minute, Art.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
you want to start?
I might want to tell you why we have told them why.
Okay, I thought.
All right, so there's an area behind the dog park, the beavers filled a dam, and Rich says not every year, but maybe every other year, the highway department or fire department has to pull out all the stuff. Last year we got some irate calls from citizens, so I'm trying to figure out a way that we can make citizens happy and it would benefit the town as well. So I contacted Art and he's here to tell you how that works.
Alrighty, so it's kind of hard to see it, but we have 2 ponds there with a road going between them. We have 4 culvert pipes that go underneath the road. That curved area is the dam. It's a 300-foot dam that we have there. So the beavers decided that we had a heavy winter. They decided they wanted to start damming up the culverts, and that's what the culverts should have looked like, and that's what the culverts looked like after the beavers got after them, and it was a constant battle. We're a condo association, so the condo association reacted accordingly. So we went out and we started doing some research, and we found out a number of things. One, that beavers are a keystone species. Basically, they come in and they change the habitat, and they make it possible for all of that wildlife to be there. So what we had there was there because of the beavers, and anything that is, if you look at what this country was beforehand, the beavers created all of the wetlands and so on. So they're responsible for that. Now, that's, every once in a while, you wind up getting conflict. So we started, there we go. So we started looking into what we could do. We had different choices. We could breach the dam. In that case, in our case, forget that wasn't even a thought, because that road that divided the 2 ponds, underneath the road were all of the pipes going up to our septic field, to our leach field. So breaching the dam was not an option. Trapping was an option. Relocating in New Hampshire is not an option. And then we had flow control devices that we started looking into. When we started looking into the flow control devices, we went through a whole big thing. We did experiments and the whole bit. And eventually we got in touch with Mike Callahan from beaversolutions.com, and he also runs a forum on Facebook. Started talking to him, and he actually enabled me to build our first device ourselves, which was a 10 by 20 cage to protect the culvert. There are 3 types of devices that are used: the culvert protection fence, the pond leveler, and then a combination of the 2. The culvert protection fence is just what it says. It's protect the culvert. It's called a beaver deceiver also. And the ideal configuration, and what happens is, so many times people put these in, they just block off, put a box around it and so on, and don't plan it out, don't know it. And what happens is they wind up damming the whole thing up or getting into it. But a cage like this has a bottom also, so they can't get underneath. But the key is the trapezoid shape. And the way that works is beavers dam for 2 reasons: sound and the feel of flowing water. If you put a tape recorder out there by the dog park near the water, you come back the next day, it'll be covered up by stuff, because just the sound of flowing water. If you have a tape recorder running with the sound of flowing water on it, they'll dam it. But they also respond to the flow. So what's going to happen is, in a culvert area, the water flows, and you notice that the smallest part of that cage is at the culvert. So the beavers can easily feel the flow and hear the water. And what they do is they begin damming on the outside. But that doesn't do anything because the water is still flowing through. As they dam further and further away from it, the sound gets less and the flow is not felt. And that's where the beaver deceiver comes in. They don't even know that the water is flowing through there. And our culverts, which are 4 24-inch culvert pipes, they do not know the water is flowing through there. Basically because of that same thing. Now, The pond leveler is probably where you folks are going to start, because if the pond leveler does what it's supposed to do, you won't need the culvert protection, because the pond leveler will carry the flow away, and if they clog the culvert, it doesn't matter because the flow is still going to be going there. So with a pond leveler, what happens is you put in that cage that you see there. The pipe runs from the cage over the dam. Literally, that's showing it through the dam. It actually is at the top of the dam, and that's not the most accurate picture. And sometimes, in the case of your area where you don't have an established dam, it'll just be a flow pipe that'll be there, and it'll be covered up. What happens is the water seeks its own level. So you set the top of that pipe at the level that you want to maintain the pond. As soon as the water flows from a runoff from the winter or a heavy storm or so on, the pond level rises, and as soon as it rises to the level of the pipe, the water flows over the pipe. And again, the beavers don't bother it because it's coming out the other side. They generally don't even know that it's there, and they're smart enough to know that if it's there and it's flowing out, they're not going to be able to dam it. You can't dam an outflow, you can only dam an inflow. The final one is a fence and pipe system. The fence and pipe system is not something that you folks would be using, but that's something where we were considering that because we had an actual flood area between our dam and the culvert pipe, so we thought we might need it, but it turned out we actually didn't need it. That's a closer look at the culvert protection cage, and that's what one of them looks like in real life. And every site is different depending upon the configuration. Chuck Crow, the gentleman that Evie was talking to about it, is sort of the expert in the mechanics of it. I learned, before I came up to New Hampshire, I had never seen a beaver in the wild. So by doing this, I sort of became the beaver guy of Sherwood Glen, and I've been giving these presentations around the state. Different constructions, different ways. Oops. This is another one. The first one you saw was probably made by Mike Callahan. That looks like his type of work. And this is Skip Lyle, the guy who actually invented the beaver deceiver. Both of those guys are on the forum. And that's another thing when this, if you folks go for this sort of thing, you'll have the support of some of the top experts in the country on that beaver forum. Evie can get on it, I'm on it. And they will work with you. Now, as far as success rates, some things about beavers that people may or may not know. Beavers are monogamous. They stay together for life. They're territorial. They will not let other beavers come in their area. And they're self-limiting in their populations. After 2 years, a kit who was born 2 years ago is kicked out, and they have to go build their own house somewhere else. So you don't get an infestation of beavers in one spot. The beavers will always come back. If you trap them, trapping only puts up a vacancy sign on the motel, because beavers move into an area because conditions are favorable for beavers. So if you trap one beaver, another's going to come in. The pond levelers success, 90% success rate over 7 years. And these are Mike Callahan's figures. These are all sites that he made. Most of the failures that take place are due to new dams that are built close by and would require another device, or extremely high flow. And that's something you don't have here because you have a rather small watershed area there. And that study is over 350 different installations. Whoops. All right, so the culvert protection fence, again, 96% effective over 7 years. And this you don't have to worry about because you're not going to be doing that. Now, trapping and flow control, we talked about it. Relocation isn't an option in here. Trapping is what they do. It's still legal, sometimes necessary. The benefits of the beavers are lost. Okay, you don't have the wildlife that you're going to have there. And in an area there, seeing, it's a short-term solution. The beavers will be back. It's going to be a constant thing. On the flow device that we set up, we have had no significant problems. We had two problems. One was a problem caused by me when I first installed it. It's a 10 by 20 cage, and it was not a level ground. But when we put it in, just by chance, there was a large boulder in one spot that made it perfectly level. Well, they're held together with hog rings and so on. And over the period of about 7 years, we have this thing called gravity, and that cage pressed down and caused a rupture in there, which you're not going to have here because you're not going to have me, who was the first time. That was my first time ever doing it. And the gentleman you're going to have in here, he does it for a living. And trapping is not cost effective. Again, if you take a look at the success rates of trapping, in almost all cases, 6 months after trapping is done, the beavers are back. Okay, so you had 90%, 10% failed after 6 months, 40% had failed after a year, and so on. So you can see that trapping is not as effective as the flow devices. And this is a comparative graph where the trapping against the flow devices over a period of time. The only maintenance that I've had to do on the flow devices is every once in a while you have to go in and clog things because leaves have gone in there or something. It's not like you have to bring in a highway patrol or something. You just have some kind of minor maintenance that you have to do on them. The Virginia Department of Highway Department installed 33 devices in 14 different sites. And they did a study of it through the Northwest Newport University. And the Virginia Highway Department, the study, I can give you the whole study if you want, but basically they were saving over $372,000 a year over what they were doing to maintain it. They had records of all the damage that was done, the repairs they had to do, the maintenance that they had to do, and so on. So the savings were absolutely there. Now this is my bad drawing of your particular situation right there. You have a pond area. That brown bar going there is the bridge that goes across the dog walk. The lighter brown area is not the droppings of the dogs, it's just the road. And then you have that little culvert that goes underneath that area. Now, right now, that just flows, the culvert flows there. And as the spring rains come, and if either the rains or the beavers clog it, one or the two, so when you have heavy runoff, the water runs under the bridge, or if the beavers clog the culvert, you're going to have water going under the bridge. So by protecting that area underneath the bridge there with a flow control device, it wouldn't even matter if the beavers clogged that culvert, because the culvert is now the actual flow device. And that culvert is maybe I don't know, look at maybe a 10-inch pipe or something like that, and the flow device is going to be able to handle a significantly larger amount of water. Another thing that came up that I just should throw in here, because this is actually a discussion that's been going on in a couple places. There was a study done on the current water demands around the country and sustainability. We know that Rockingham County has had a number of drought situations, and New Hampshire has had drought situations. Well, if we take a look at, whoops, what happened here? Oh yeah, there we go. If we take a look at this map, it's showing water sustainability in all of the counties around this country. And you can see the reds and the darks are the worst. And this is what would look like in 2050 if there were no effects of global warming, okay? If we factor in global warming effects, we now have something that looks like this. But what's significant about this, if you look at the Northeast, you see 3 counties in the Northeast that are going to be in significant trouble by that time. Guess which one it is? Rockingham County is right there in New Hampshire. That's one of the counties in New Hampshire that's going to be in the worst situation. So I mentioned Mike Callahan. This is the guy who helped me, and he's there for all of us too if you need them. Do you have any questions? I mean, I try to keep this as short as possible. I mean, I usually do about a 40-minute to an hour presentation, and I figured everybody would be asleep and be telling you a lot of things that you didn't need to know. But I think the bottom line is that this is a cost-effective solution. It's going to get you a lot of good PR in the community and around the community too, because these are things as people adopt them, the word gets out, and other people will be checking in to see how it goes, and hopefully, beavers can make a difference in New Hampshire if this sort of thing continues, and we encourage beavers in areas where we don't have high conflict. This would be one thing if this was going to be flooding in on a major road or an industrial area, and it's going to be difficult to deal with. I'm not sure what would happen, but this is an area where there's recreation, so people appreciate it. And it'll come back and pay for itself in time. So, any questions?
So how much did Virginia have to spend to save $372,000?
Okay, Evie has that.
Yep.
Oh, no, you're talking about the 375? That was, if you take a look at that was based upon 33 devices in 14 sites.
That doesn't tell me how much they spent.
Evie has that. Evie has that stuff.
Okay, so I had Chuck out so that he could see what he's dealing with and give us an estimate. So if we do this, he would do it in 2 stages because we're not absolutely sure. And I talked to Rich about this, and Rich wasn't sure whether they're actually blocking the culvert, because I see water running through that culvert year round. But they are definitely damming by the bridge that goes across to it's all town property. That piece is town property behind the dog park. So it's all town property. It's part of the fairgrounds package. And so there's a bridge there, and it's probably an illegal bridge, but people use it from the properties over at Hannigan Lane. So they're damming where that bridge is. So Chuck and I looked at it, and that's where the highway department has been pulling out the beaver dams. And so if he does that area, starts with that area, the price is $1,500, which is.
But you have the grant. Don't forget. There is you're going to be applying for the matching grant?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you said it was a $500.
$500, yeah, $500.
Right.
There's the New Hampshire Wildlife offers a $500 matching grant. So $500 of that, if they applied to them, would be picked up by New Hampshire Wildlife. And it's my estimation that if you do the flow device under the bridge there, that it will not be necessary to protect the culvert, because even if the culvert is clogged, you have already replaced a 10-inch culvert with a 16-inch culvert. So there's no need for the culvert under there. That culvert is there to keep the overflow, and the stuff going under the bridge will do that. So it's my opinion that you're only going to need the one device.
Right. And all the ponding that goes on behind that dam isn't really terrible anyway. And that's a huge wetland complex behind the dog park. The houses on the far end are high and dry from that. So I thought also because it has sort of frontage on Green Road, but it's back inside a little bit, Don went out there with me, that it would be a great place for the town to experiment and see if this works. It's not gonna really affect, any property adversely if it doesn't work, but it's certainly worth a try. We're willing to, I don't know if the town would be willing to pay for this. If not, Conservation's willing to attempt to crowdsource it, if that's okay with you, whatever is the balance that we would owe Chuck. But I think it's good public relations, and it would be a great place to start as an experiment to see if it works.
Yeah, I think
I'm just offering this up to you guys to consider. I think it's worth considering.
Yeah, and I'll throw something else out there, because if you put a pond leveler in there and you decide what level you want that pond area to be, you can maintain it at that level and actually allow it to grow. Because what happened with us when we put in our first device, the culvert protection fence, we said we don't need a pond leveler because the pond is fine. It's not threatening any houses or anything like that. So we let that go from 2011 to 2015, and we allowed the pond level to rise and the beavers to continue building the dam. At that point in time, in 2015, we said, okay, the pond is high enough right now. So at that point in time, we installed the pond leveler. As soon as we installed the pond leveler, that is as high as the pond ever got and will ever get. So the good part about it is, if you allow the beavers to dam and you make that area a little bit wider, you're going to be improving your watershed, not damaging any of the houses and so on, and you might make a very nice area for recreation, that sort of thing. So you can actually use the pond lever to not only save money in the long run, you could actually make a nice place for the community. You could turn that into a park or something like that down the line.
Actually, the Girl Scouts asked if they could put a trail back there, but it would be a problem with DES. I think they'd have to get a permit to do a new bridge and so forth, so I kind of discouraged that. I do have pictures of the area, but for the sake of other people who want to talk to you, I think you get the idea. I just think it would be a good idea to try this there. It's a good spot to attempt it and see how it works over 7 years. See if it might be useful for the town.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, so you can let me know when you decide.
Does the Conservation Commission have any money to do this? Does the Conservation Commission have money to actually try this?
We would probably try to crowdsource it rather than, because I don't know what the legality is to use the money that we have for that. It's actually certain highway department territory. So, but we're willing to do whatever it takes to try this and see if it works.
Brian, did you take a look at that device?
We've used different devices in the past. Obviously, the liability issue of them, town's got it, they decide to control
Floods other people's property. So who would,
The last time we removed the dam.
Brian, you wanna come up? Sorry. Can you come up so we can hear you? People at home can hear you too.
Last time we removed the dam, the water was up to the level of Green Road just prior to the dog park, or backs around there. So even though it wasn't affecting the houses or the residents that are up a little bit higher, it was getting ready to reach Green Road.
Well, if it was at that level, then that's the level that you would want to maintain it a foot or so below that level, so that you just determined that you don't want that pond to get any higher than what the bridge is. And that's what the pond level right there. So if you maintain the pond at the level that you want, you set it, you determine that, and then whatever it's set at when you install it, that's the level that the pond is going to be at.
not to make
The
the
beavers haven't been working.
May?
May, June is when they kick the kids
The
out.
water was so low all summer that they haven't been there, but they probably will become there this spring when the snow melts.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea.
Anybody else got questions? Well, I mean, it's definitely worth taking a look at. I'd like to talk to our road agent and go out there and kind of see things and just kind of put what you've shown us on the site, in the mental image there.
Sure.
And then the other side will be just exploring funding options. But, obviously we have removed recreational trapping as one of the tools in our arsenal to deal with beavers, so we'll have to look at something.
Okay, we can discuss it. Just wanted you to hear the presentation so that you know what we would like to do, ideally. Right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else on that front here?
No, I know how Rich feels about the whole situation. Sure, we spoke with you about it. Maybe.
Yeah, briefly, I mean, there are maintenance issues that go with those, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if it's all the residents that are concerned about it, maybe it's something they should work on as a group. If that's, affects them.
Yeah, I mean, if we did go this route, we would have to have someone monitoring the situation pretty regularly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's gonna be maintenance either way. Whether it fails, if it's clogged with leaves,
Okay. Well, we can take a look at it this upcoming week. Do you have anything for us?
No.
All right. That brings us to our first public comment section of the evening. This man.
I'm Beverly Manning and I live on South Road.
I'm sorry, where?
I live at 23, I'm sorry, I used to live on South Road, 23 North Road,
Okay.
here in Kingston. And I think we all can agree that the world is changing and I'm wondering whether we should take a look at recycling. I had a conversation with you recently at the Chiefs meeting after reading a lot about what had happened in Plastow regarding how they were going to handle recycling in the future. I became aware that per ton, recycling costs more than trash. And whether people are willing to continue doing it, whether it's worthwhile for the town to continue doing it. I've been recycling since my parents brought newspapers down to the town hall for the Boy Scouts when I was young. I look at everything that I use, and if it goes in the bucket, it goes in the bucket. But with China discontinuing receiving recyclables, I'm wondering whether they really are getting recycled. Do we know what Waste Management is doing with these loads? Are they just dumping them in with the trash? Because sources are short and a lot of people, they throw sneakers in the recycling. I've seen all sorts of articles where people are just not properly recycling and the loads become contaminated and get rejected. So I don't know when our contract expires. I don't know if it's time to take a look at this. It would feel really weird to me to be throwing what I'm putting in the recycling in the trash. But if this is the way that our world is going, I'm just wondering whether the town should take a look at that. Does anyone have more information? Are they?
Go at it.
As the resident recycling guy. So we recently had a conflict with Waste Management, where they were trying to raise our recycling rates basically a year after we had signed our contract. they were citing the China not accepting recycling at the volume that they were previously. It was all a bunch of crap. They were just trying to get more money out of us, and we fought them on it, and they backed off. I do personally feel that recycling is one of the biggest, well, trash in general is one of the biggest costs this time. I mean, we're spending over $528,000 on that budgeted this year. That's a lot of money. And one of the things that I've talked to the road agent about, and just kind of, we're in the beginning phases of trying to look at it, is potentially setting up a recycling transfer station in town. And I haven't really talked to the other board members about this because I'm trying to get the information together. Went to a meeting that the RPC put on regarding this about 2 years ago, the Rockingham Planning Commission. One of the things that the speaker indicated was there's value in a lot of these products. Like the cardboard has a lot of value, the aluminum obviously has value, you know, scrap metal, things like that. There are valuable things in there. Other things, you know, we can utilize. If we crush up the glass, that's a great base material. It doesn't hold moisture at all. It's just totally porous. So it can go if we're putting new road beds down, or just fixing road issues, or new catch basins, things like that. Those can be the materials that go in the bottom of it. So there are things that can be used there. What we're looking into, the road agent is looking to get the information. There are people who will do bulk buys from towns. So if we get everything, all our cardboard baled together, all of our, you know, all these things put together and segregated, we can actually, you know, get the money from that. I think that would probably just go into keeping our costs down, because it would have to be a staffed operation, probably on a Saturday, with overtime for the highway department guys, or anybody, you know, who's trained in that area to go and do that for the town. And I guess what I was looking at it as is possibly a 4-year pilot program where we just lease a baler to put these, you know, the cardboard baled together, or a glass
People buy
crusher.
it from Amazon, there's more cardboard out there.
Right, and that actually has value. That's what China actually wanted, was the cardboard, because they don't have a forced system of their own. There's a lot of parts to it though. I mean, it's just kind of something, since I went to this thing, it's been kind of something I've been slowly researching, but I think for the town, it's pretty foolish of us to ignore one of our largest costs, and it's only gonna get more expensive.
When does that contract end with waste?
23, I think.
Is it 23?
I think it was signed in 18.
I think
Was it 17?
I think it was
5 years.
Yeah, I think
End of 17?
yes.
Yeah, end of 17 it was signed. So 22.
22.
But in this whole course of conversation with Waste Management, they did assure us that our recycling is being recycled. It is going to a computerized sort facility. It is being sorted and diverted to the appropriate places. I don't know what you're referring to with Plastow, what they're doing.
They came up with a number of 17% of the population was recycling, and there was a comment whether that was Waste Management's number. They were negotiating a new contract, is my understanding, so there weren't a lot of people in the town that supported it, but they did pass it anyway, so I guess they're gonna continue to recycle.
Yeah, I think what a lot of municipalities are starting to look at is just offering trash. And I think the long-range impact of that is gonna be, we don't have as many dumps as we used to. So there's a big landfill in Rochester that's eventually gonna fill up. And if less people are recycling, obviously it's gonna fill up a lot quicker. And I don't think that's, in talking with people in town, you know, I don't think there's an appetite for people to get rid of recycling in Kingston. And I don't think that's a good idea for us in the long term anyway. But I think we need to take control of our costs in that realm. And if we're getting 50% of the town to participate in this transfer station thing, that could substantially reduce our yearly costs in this thing.
Do you know the breakdown? I mean, I've caught you cold between
You have.
trash and recycling. Was it a third more, do you think? Was it half as much more?
We save money on recycling.
Is So it's cheaper to recycle than trash?
Correct. They were trying to raise the cost on us. If we got rid of the recycling and put it all in one trash, our cost would go higher.
No, it would've gone down. Because that's why we went to the every other week.
Yeah, but our tonnage, the cost per tonnage is cheaper for the recycle than it is for the trash.
I don't think so. Because what we had entertained was going just to straight trash when we talked to Pete about it.
Yeah, but our tipping, Susan should have it. Our cost, the tipping fee for regular trash is more money than the recycling.
But the handling and all of that and the totes that go with it and everything, it ends up being more per ton.
It's usually more expensive to recycle than not, traditionally.
I thought that was why they were trying to raise the rate, because
They had already built that escalation in there, which is why they weren't able to do it, is because they knew that the thing with China was going on.
Yeah.
They built that into their escalation costs, and then they tried to come back a year later and get more money out of us. But on a per ton basis, it is more expensive for recycling.
just to upstop it right now, like I said, the tipping fees are cheaper.
And
I don't know.
I
Well,
don't have that in front of me, so I couldn't.
The contract's gonna be up on the 22nd, in the year 2022, so we're gonna have to do something then. Because we won't get the rate we have right now, put it that way.
I think there was some mention that they were encouraging the citizens to leave their glass out of the recycling because.
Yeah, that's one of the lead
It's
contaminant
heavier
problems,
and
is glass breaking and kind of ruining the cardboard, getting embedded into the cardboard. Obviously, you don't want to be making TP out of cardboard with glass in it. So contamination issues are a big problem there, which is why we would need a manned facility to watch people as they're putting things in there. I think also you're gonna get a more active recycler. If they're getting in their car and going on Saturday to go turn all their recycling in, they're probably gonna go through the effort of rinsing it out and making sure that it's sorted and all that kind of thing.
Do you think when the bills go out in June, you can slip in the chart for recycling? So that people aren't contaminating the loads and we don't have issues with waste does waste management ever give us a hard time if the recycling is got the loads?
I mean, they have a very state-of-the-art facility that picks all these things out. What it is the Chinese are using contamination as a way to justify them not taking our trash. It's basically, they have a huge environmental problem on there. There was some documentary about kids just basically picking through these recycling piles, and there was naturally an uproar about it, so they stopped taking everybody's recycling. That was their immediate response.
Can we refresh our citizens to maybe, if that's what we want them to do, include that flyer that comes in waste management, just print that and put it in with the tax bills?
I thought it's on the website.
It is on the website. I think the problem we've run into is the single stream recycling just kind of killed everybody's good habits. Where people were separating out their recycling before, glass here, cans here, paper here. Now everybody's just throwing everything into this big open container. And the big open container, well, I've got my fast food bag. I don't want to walk to the house. I'll chuck it in the container. And so it's, I don't want to say it's laziness, but it's not as convenient as just chucking it in there. I know we did send out a mailer when this issue came up, when they were trying to raise the rates, and they brought up contamination as an issue. We did send, or we put it on the website a bit more prominently, you know, just as kind of top notice.
Because I read the flyer today and it said plastics were 1 through 7. And I always thought they were 1, 2, and 5.
I think there's a lot of things that just have recycling logos on them, but serve no value to anyone. They're essentially garbage. They're not going to be recycled. Styrofoam, the little bags you get from the supermarket, films, packaging, things like that. They're not very easy to recycle. I think it's more of if you're being watched while you do it, you probably do it better. And I think that would help the town in the long run if people are keeping an eye on these things. But there's no silver bullet on any of it.
Well, thank you for the education. continue doing it. I would feel strange not throwing that kitty food can in the, after cleaning it out, in my recycling bucket.
Yeah, I mean,
But I was worried about not having a source for all of this, and that Waste Management, if they've told you they are sending it out to be handled, then that's more encouraging than knowing that I'm going to all this trouble, and it's just getting mixed in with the trash when it gets to Waste Management.
yeah, there were rumors going around. They had a friend who worked there, and he said they were just all going to Rochester and dumping it, and that's not the case. They go to a different location to sort it, and it's, I can't remember where it is, but it's not the same way as Rochester. And I think it's something, if the town wants to control its own destiny, we're gonna have to spend a little money up front and try this out and see if it works and make adjustments as possible, and if people wanna do it, we'll find out.
Almost like the old days when we used to go to the dump.
Well, that's the other side of it, is it's a cool community thing. Everybody can see each other. Someone could have a fundraiser thing set up selling coffee and donuts, and or the fire department could have that. Or, I think it could work. It's worth a try.
Well, thank you for my 3 minutes.
I talked for most of them, so you ain't got it. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Your light keeps going off. Keep on going. What is that? Any other public comment?
I don't see anybody on Zoom. Anybody got anything to say?
Response now? You want me to wait till later in the meeting, or committee liaisons or whatever?
It's absolutely up to you.
Okay, I want to read a statement. Last week, an hour before our meeting, the Board of Selectmen, each member, and the planning board received a letter from Mr. and Mrs. Kettner referring to some land that I have under agreement for purchase, and I just want to read something briefly. I wanted to state that I was approached almost 2 years ago to see if I would be interested in selling the land I owned that abuts the town forest. The land was needed to meet conservation requirements for proposed development in town. I agreed to the sale and signed a purchase and sales agreement which was contingent on the development getting approved. This all occurred prior to my being elected to the select board. When I was elected last March, a year ago, I informed my colleagues on the board of the pending sale and stated that I would indeed recuse myself from voting on any proposal that came before us regarding the 266 Route 125 project. And I also stated that the same would be true in the zoning board, because that's where it was most likely to be a problem. I have been active for more than 40 years in various community boards and organizations, from town moderator to school board to selectmen, while also operating a local grocery store, developing the Carriagetown Plaza, and founding a newspaper. I have always maintained the utmost integrity and impartiality. I believe that public officials should be truthful and transparent, and I have been and will continue to be throughout this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that will conclude public comment. Old business. Are you here for Rich? No? Okay.
You want an update on the I'm
Yeah.
still waiting for the attorney. I've had 2 emails from her saying that both contracts, that she's been tied up in other litigation, so she's not been able to devote the time, and I'm supposed to have it this weekend. One of the contracts, I think it was the one we had for the fire chief, we wanted to use that as a template going forward for future contracts. So that's the one that required the most work. So I'd be more than happy to follow up on Wednesday if I don't have it the next day, to make sure that we have it by the end of this week, so we can review it and let the 2 individual employees also have a chance to review it. So we have not forgotten it, it's just tied up with attorneys.
Would it be possible to front load the road agent one?
Sure.
Since that isn't as complicated, but I think his concern is his elected position is up.
Get the March 1st, I know you have
Yeah.
the bridge contract. yeah, I can do that. I'll at least call and find out if that's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The 79E discussion. Did we?
I can speak to that as well.
Okay. Did you hear back from Glenn, Rich?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Deb Powers and Ernie both had a question about whether or not we went beyond our means, giving 9 years of relief. They thought the limit may be 7. They talked to Glenn Greenwood Thursday or Friday of last week, and he seemed to agree. After that, he watched the video of our meeting and told me today that he thinks Jensberg may be right, that he can do 9 years. So I asked him at about 1 o'clock if he could check with the state and get a ruling on what was right and what was wrong. And he said he would get back to me before he left, and I never heard from him.
He hadn't heard back as of the end of today. He did call me.
Well, he should have called me like he said he was going to.
I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Chinberg was more knowledgeable than we were. I don't think he would have asked for something that he didn't think was within our realm of responsibility. But, you know, it doesn't hurt to double check, make sure that we don't run into a buzzsaw down the road.
And Deb Powers and Ernie are both on Zoom. They may want to comment to this.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Yeah, Rich pretty much explained it. We did talk to Glenn Greenwood, and he initially, I guess, believed that it was not appropriate. But at this point, I think what we were trying to do is just identify what could be a potential problem in our minds and just raise that for you so that you could actually try to get an authoritative decision on that from somebody who is really familiar with the process and who has a role in informing folks about what the aspects of the RSA are from a technical standpoint. So I'd be glad to hear whatever comes out of Glenn's conversation with whomever he's going to be talking to, and hopefully everything is okay to go forward.
Did anyone contact Mr. Chinberg?
Pardon me?
Did anyone contact Mr. Chinberg? Eric?
It was my understanding you were going to talk to Matt, or I think Matt was who you said to talk to him.
To give him a heads up, correct? I did do that, but I haven't heard any follow-up from there.
I don't know if there's anything to follow up with at this point until we get some kind of decision. Other than maybe to call him and say it's been questioned and we're checking into it.
Yeah, I can let him know, but I think it's worth doing this. Just obviously this is our first one. There's going to be hiccups like this, you know, but at least we can get a definitive answer from the state so we know moving forward.
If you wouldn't mind calling Eric Chinberg, I think we should do that and not rely on through the school or the state.
Well, I think the state is.
Well, the state, no, I don't mean not rely on them. They should know whether this is doable or not. My guess is so does he. But just to let him know that we're checking into that. Because I don't expect Matt Angel to do that for us, so, really, even if I ask.
All right. Is that all you had on it, Rich?
Yes.
Okay, we will await further guidance. I will contact the applicant to let him know that is going on. All right. Update on the sale of town land.
I don't have anything per se, but what I would suggest is we could at least notify, I gotta catch up with Sumner to find out if we can do anything with the, you know, bonding the trees type thing. But in the meantime, we know there's 2 parcels that we're looking at in Great Pond area, and there's the one in Pillsbury. Maybe we could forward those tracks to planning and conservation, see if they have any issues, and at least get that part of the approval out of the way. And then it'll give me time to catch up with Sumner.
Did you do 2 or 3 in Great Pond?
What?
Did you do 2 or 3 tracks in Great Pond?
Actually, there's 2 separate areas in Great Pond. There's the area on 5th Street that we talked about. Then there's the, where the paper road is, where the guy took down the trees.
Yeah.
Those are actually 2 parcels, you're right. And then there's the one in Pillsbury.
There's also that one that we got a letter back.
That's different.
No, it's the same one.
We got another, Matt Costello on First Street
Oh.
Yeah, there's a couple different places, well, they're both on the map.
When did that come?
a year ago. You've been waiting to hear from the board for a year.
I
That
didn't know.
wasn't under consideration for the last couple.
No, I don't know where that came from. I wasn't aware of that one.
Oh, I don't know, I'm thinking of a different one.
We
That's
had
one.
2 that came in a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah,
Chief,
this
and
one
there was
came-
one related to
Yeah.
someone here. So those are the only 3 we had, this Costello one, no.
Yeah, this one came in about a year ago.
Well,
I know
maybe he
nothing
needs
about
to
that one.
reapply.
Find it again.
If you want to get me that, but I would suggest I can get with Susan, where we can identify those tracks and get that to the planning and conservation, see if they have any issues, and if they're okay with it, then it goes back into our wheelhouse.
You wanna make that a motion?
Yes, I would ask that our administrator sends over to conservation and planning board the tracts of land that the town is looking to.
Didn't we already vote on that? The last meeting, we didn't do that.
This is a specific action, so I'm just trying to make it so there's.
Just to get those,
Recorded.
yeah, just to get those tracts of land identified over to the
But they
planning
should
board, see
take
if they have any issues with them.
That's what the RSA states, and that
Mhm.
both the planning board
Yep.
and then conservation must review it.
Correct.
Okay,
But you nodding your head and you're seconding?
yes.
Okay, motion and second, further discussion? Hearing none, roll call
Alessio?
Yes.
Briggs?
vote. Yes.
Coons?
Yes.
St. James?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll get the ball rolling on that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Notice of violation. Did we hear back from our council?
We did, it's in your signature file, I had to make a few adjustments, and he wanted us to include pictures. We did already have some, I don't know if we need to take others, but it's ready to go if you, agree to that.
But he wanted some pictures, is that that's the difference?
Right, and we had a few from January, which I've included, I think I've attached it to the letter.
Isn't some of the food on both sides of Main Street now?
No, there was another issue, and I think that's going around. Yeah, I think that was in that pile of appointments. There was the violation notice in there as well.
It's right here. One of those.
Rich, can you come in tomorrow and sign that?
Yeah.
Or whenever you're green? All right. New business. We have a right to know request form. Turn that over to Dylan.
That's something we're gonna take up, non-public.
Okay. Committee liaison reports.
I don't have anything at this time.
We just went through Conservation Commission, elected all of the sitting offices, vice chair and chair. Those minutes will be given to Tammy. That's all.
Say again, new business?
Committee reports.
No.
Okay. One thing that came up in the inspectors meeting is just mailboxes. Plowing going on. There's a lot of questions going on with that. So, for the record, a 2-inch pipe or a 4x4 post are the only acceptable means that are. I'm looking at what I'm saying. Are the only acceptable means of anchoring your mailbox to the ground. So your ginormous granite post that you have 8 feet in the ground, and if that hurts anyone, that's on you. But we are going to be taking the time to go around and start identifying the ones that are very problematic. There have been people that have been putting in some overly reinforced mailboxes. There is a right-of-way that the town owns, and if you're in that right-of-way, you need to adhere to the rules and regulations regarding mailboxes. If there are comments or questions about that, please call the highway barn and they can explain it to you. And if you have any questions, they'll be more than willing to come out and take a look at it with you just to make sure you're in compliance. So that's all I had. Inspectors meeting. Board business. The 266 Route 125 conditions of approval. Rich, do you want to take this one or do you want me to do it?
Which one?
The conditions of approval for 266 Route 125.
Basically what that is so to get the word to all the inspectors that if they have anything that they want in there, for one, it is the planning board's duty to write that, not the selectmen. But we want to make sure that anything that's been mentioned in their reports gets covered and nothing gets missed. And then, Bill, you may want to talk to the building permit issue.
Yeah, so obviously we're trying to plan ahead here. It looks like most of the conditional use permits have been approved. So what we need to start doing is figure out what specialists we need to be retained within their bond. So, fire suppression, I don't know, when you have ginormous parking lot made out of permeable pavement, you probably need someone who's specialized in that. Just all of those things. How did this go for All-American? How did we determine who was going to do specialized inspections for those items?
For the bond.
Yeah.
So Graham can address the bond part. They fixed half of the repeaters. So
No, like when they were building.
well, Dennis was doing it. And Dennis went challenge the final approvals for the bond, make sure everything was done. And then reported it back to us in the form of a letter. The only thing I know that's left on American Assisted Living, All-American Assisted Living, is the two-way repeater. That's still not complete.
But it was just SFC for the fire suppression. Was there anyone else that they pulled in for that?
Graham, you remember it was just those, right? Yeah, just those, yeah.
Okay.
We may want a repeater system in this building as well, as big as it is.
We definitely will want a repeater in there, so we can speak out into and out of that building.
I guess the point is we want to get everybody thinking, not a crazy wish list, but things that actually are going to require specialists in those fields, like.
So would it not be easier, and I don't speak for the planning board, but maybe for our representative to bring to the planning board, that I find the easiest way to have those things happen is to have like we do with the technical review. Graham, I don't know what your thought is on that. To sit down with all the players at a technical review meeting to come up with those things.
That's fine, but at the next planning board meeting, there's probably going to be an approval based on conditions. And those conditions need to go in before that meeting, which is week from tomorrow night.
So I think we'll work on it then prior to that.
Okay.
I guess we're just trying to get it out there so nobody's blindsided by this, and we don't wanna get caught flat-footed not knowing what we need.
So I guess I do have a question for the fire chief then. As far as fire equipment apparatus, if that building does go in, do we have sufficient equipment without taxing the town, any additional equipment or personnel to maintain, anything we need to do there?
Well, do we have sufficient apparatus for the battle blaze there? No, that's why they have mutual aid, like Raymond was talking about last night. There'll be some of that, so, you know, we have to call ladder trucks from other towns, we have to call, you know, special units from other towns, but, you know, we can, as of right now, we can handle, I don't foresee that taxing our staffing as of right now. You know, the, elderly communities that we have, all American, they're taxing us more than the warehouse would. So it's gonna be kind of a wait and see, I guess.
Definitely need the repeater, so if we go inside that building, we can both talk in and
Yeah,
out.
I reached out to SFC, Jeff Murphy, let him know that, the CUPs were approved, that it looks like it may be going through, so just to give a heads up, because that's what they did, is they, all American, they bonded the amount SFC told them they were charging, and they would draw from the bond. And we would accompany them on inspections, but they basically did all the inspections.
I guess I'll get with Robert. I mean, I have to imagine a 800,000 square foot building, they're probably gonna have a concrete plant right on site for that, so someone's gonna have to be there doing test batches and all of it, so. I guess, can you just include me when you guys have a meeting on this?
Sure.
And you, Phil, they want to talk to all the inspectors, you know, we talked about briefly in the inspectors meeting, but, you know, is the electrical inspector, is he gonna be able to handle that volume of, you know, checking every outlet and going over those plans? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I guess as I'm running this scenario through my head, yeah, it should probably be a more in-depth conversation with each one of them.
So call a special inspectors meeting this week, or any day, around every day, and see when the other inspectors are around.
Or do we wanna bring them in on one technical review meeting?
Yeah, that's focus.
One thing Robert and I talked about is that there'll be stamped engineered plans, and at his end of it's not really that technical or difficult because the engineer's taking responsibility for the steel building. The hard part's going to be more the electrical. That's going to be the biggest issue because there's going to be a tremendous amount of electrical work in that building.
And plumbing, yeah. Let me, all right, anything else on that one? All right, the performance bond agreement.
You have that copy in your folder, I believe. That's for Oxford. Cindy had to, copy another form, so there had to be a change made to adjust it. She would be more comfortable if it went to Sumner, so that's pretty much the question right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anyone not want that to happen? All right, got our town report covered.
Looks
I
good.
thought that was great. I thought
I
that
love
was
it.
so great. I do.
And I like the dedication.
Okay.
If that doesn't bring a smile to everyone's faces, I don't know what would.
We had several photos to choose from.
I know, I was questioning the photo maybe, but it's,
We did have several photos we could choose from.
Should we show the public what we're talking about?
And Susan did a great job. She picked the right one.
Yeah, he had some joke photos. That's the only normal one that I had for the dedication. So, if you have something else that you prefer on there, we can certainly plug it in.
I think it's great. One question on the second paragraph. Didn't we use some highway funds when we built that building from the dump fund?
The highway garage.
Highway garage.
Are you talking about the dedication?
Yeah, it mentions that the library's built with the funds and part of the fire station.
But I think highway, didn't we use some funds?
I'm not sure, it wasn't there, but whether you did or didn't with the highway. I think you might be right though, because you paid cash for it, you didn't bond it.
I can find out.
Okay. Anybody else on that? All right, the IT services contract, we set the Primex and town council, assuming we haven't heard back yet.
I just got it today from Sumner, so you can take a look at that. He's advising send it to Primex, which I already have.
He's
so
brutal.
Yeah.
He's brutal, it's in the packet. I say send it to Block 5, see what they say. Go from there.
Yeah, I talked.
He's brutal though, my God, he doesn't.
I talked to Mike, is it from Block 5 today, because he's sending over the agreements for each project coming up. There's 8 of them.
Yeah.
So I did tell him that we'd sent this out for legal review, and probably we'd take care of that first, and he's fine with that. So we'll see what Primex says.
Reading what Sumner says, I would hope that maybe Block 5 would be amenable to add the phrase, go to arbitration, and if we can't come to agreement, then, you know, it's on any party to judicial process. That's his recommendation on 2 of the topics, so it has to do with binding arbitration.
And a 10-day turnaround on payment's pretty tough too. It really is.
So, yeah. No, I'm saying, I think it should be okay. I think, you know, as far as the IT thing, I will say the Fort Gate, I can't remember, because 3 different people referenced it, that what he's using for spyware is the top there is out there right now. So, you know, I mean, I can't see how they would take on the liability if someone does hack it, if he's using a third-party software. But I say just send it to Mike, see what he says. Send it to Block 5, see what they say. Yeah, the breach. Boy, he's brutal. I want to find a spelling error in one of his reports.
It's not showing on this one. It's pretty obvious. I don't think I've seen anything as detailed in a year.
I think he just wanted us to know he read it, that's all.
I think that's pretty evident.
So. Before you go to public comment, I did have something I want to bring to the board's attention I forgot about. I got a phone call for, there was property down Great Pond, the very end, where we allowed the person, they had 2 separate lots where the right-of-way was going right through the house, or the lot, and we allowed them to put the water underneath the right-of-way.
The septic line.
Yeah. So just so you understand, the house is built and it's for sale. And the way it was plowed, if you looked at it, it just looked like we had this enormous parking lot. And the neighbor called and said, listen, I want it to be known that, you know, they can only park by the wellhead, they can't park on the side of their house because that's the actual right of way. So I called the realtor and informed him that, you know, make sure at your showing that you identify that that's a right of way, their parking lot is across the way.
So he did call me back today and we'll post the no parking signs like was requested.
Yeah, I had a call from the neighbor too, and she wanted to make sure everything they promised to do would be done. That was the walls and the no parking.
So he called back today. I did call him last week and he said he would take care of that.
They were blocking the trail there, were they? They were.
Well, they're not blocking the trail, but whoever buys the house is gonna think that that's their yard.
Right.
They're not gonna understand that's a right of way.
Is there anything, I mean, they don't even own the property, so it's not like we have to put a provision in the deed.
Well, I think it was part of, they would put no parking signs and they're gonna have open house there. So I think the neighbor was concerned about the parking in itself, which they'd be blocking everything in there. So that was part of the comment I made to them.
real estate agents under the bus, but they're interested in selling the property, they might not be as diligent about pointing out some of the issues.
I left a message with the builder on it.
Okay.
Did we give them that easement in writing? Okay. And was that stipulation in the easement?
Yep, my stipulation was it was fenced, it had to be no parking signs.
No parking signs and walled on either side.
That's right.
Second public comment of the evening. Deb, you wanna go again?
Oh, yeah, I would like to comment, but it's short. Susan is very difficult to hear when you watch it on television. And I know unfortunately the town voted down the soundproofing. But you all need to speak, you're perfect, you speak very loudly and clearly. But I'll have trouble understanding Susan, what she has to say is important.
I'm usually worried because I got the Zoom in front of me, so everybody on Zoom can hear me loud and clear. But I guess I have to speak that way as well.
But I usually can't hear you at all.
And the acoustics are terrible.
To be corrected.
Hopefully.
It will be corrected if it gets voted in.
Have to, we have to. Maybe not this week.
All right. Correspondence. We got a letter from the South Shore Outboard Association regarding the annual Green Pond race. Chief referenced. Internet. Any questions on that? All right, so there was a question on an unbuildable lot that someone seems to have found a way to build upon, according to them.
They questioning
The
whether they
question
can,
is that-
because they want to sell it. It's been deemed unbuildable for about 20 years.
That's all we spoke about, right?
Yeah, for tax purposes. They went to the assessor, got it changed to unbuildable for tax purposes. Now they want to sell it, they want to say it's buildable. And I guess the question was, Tori took this question and she didn't know, she didn't want to tell them one way or the other, so she wanted to know how to handle that. I think they just need to do their own research and come back and
Yeah.
then we'll deal with it.
Because it's still deemed to be unbuildable based upon their request.
Right.
So we didn't take it, separate it, or do anything.
No.
So it wasn't
So-
that at the time.
So the lot has been empty for forever, right?
So,
And taxed as unbuildable, so
And
that's
taxes
the
are,
other
which
piece.
means that we've got very little revenue from it.
Right.
right.
And it would really be a candidate more for an abutting lot to purchase it and add it onto their land as opposed to selling it as a buildable lot. If it's already designated unbuildable, why would we change it?
Well, I guess when you read the email here, they're looking for clarification. It says unbuildable on the tax card.
Because they had it done that way, and also if there's a septic system on that lot, or a well on that lot, we've already set a precedence, and that last one we did on Rock River Road.
Merger by contact.
So she already sent the person the property card, just says it's unbuildable, and that's the only answer she's given them, because that's really all that she can tell them,
That's
so.
correct.
Yeah.
But depending upon if they put a well or septic or anything that feeds the first lot, then they wouldn't be able to separate it anyway, based
Well,
upon.
it's separate, this one's not a merged lot, it's just separate lots, it's across the road, I think, from the person where they live. They wanna sell it as a separate lot now.
Oh, so they have it already, it's part of their property.
Yeah, and they've just been using it to park on or whatever, so.
I think we leave it as unbuildable.
Yeah, I would say the non-conforming lot that they willfully made unbuildable
Stay unbuildable.
would remain unbuildable.
Okay. We can have the assessor look at it too, he's coming in Wednesday, but
That'd probably be a good
It's not
idea.
the same guy.
See what's on
better
it.
one.
Yeah, see what's on it, see if it's just a plain lot, the size of it. I think that's a great pond as well.
Yeah, but if we've been taxing it as an unbuildable lot, pretty hard, all of a sudden that would make it buildable.
Right.
And then, I don't know, I would not.
And it was based upon their request to make it that way.
Yeah.
Well, that was convenient for them because they got taxed at a lower rate.
Yeah,
So
correct.
now we're gonna change it, so they can make more money.
I think the only thing we need to do is just clarify with the assessor that that's the case,
Okay.
and then we can take a vote on it next week.
Okay.
Benefit contribution deduction service agreement.
It's an agreement, and my eyes glaze over with anything to do with insurance, but Cindy has explained to me, it's authorizing.
I love it. I sit here and read this all night.
Okay, authorizes the insurance company to deduct from a person's pay to go towards their disability, something like that. It's pretty much a technicality, should be signed.
Was there any other piece to that?
I don't know, am I missing something?
No, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That allows them to take that from,
The employee,
rather than from the town, correct? Isn't that how she explained it?
Something like that. We could read it, but I'm not sure you.
we authorize them to payroll deduct an expense to the employee.
That's correct.
That sounds good.
That's why your editor is here.
That's absolutely correct. Couldn't have said it any better.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, does the board want to make a motion allowing me to sign this?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Alessio?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coombs?
Abstain.
St. James?
Yes.
And Wilson?
Yes.
Okay, take a motion on the minutes.
Move the adoption of the minutes from January 25th and February 1st, both public and non-public.
Second.
I did get a couple of corrections on the non-public. I fixed that.
You want a roll call vote there, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Alessio?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coombs?
Yes.
St. James?
Yes.
And Wilson?
Yes.
All right. The Kingston Days committees, their appointments have gone around. We have several letters. There's only we're in the one.
And so,
Yeah, they, probably from
More of the
last week.
same.
Yeah.
Several pages in the letter.
the same neighborhood or? Okay.
I think that, the others last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion going non-public? For legal, is it, or personnel?
For personnel and safety. Personnel and public safety.
Personnel and public?
Public safety.
That's not a reason, is it?
Not for safety, it's a personnel issue.
Right,
Yeah.
personnel involved.
Okay, yeah, just personnel.
That was a motion by St. James.
Yes.
Second by Briggs.
Yes.
Roll call vote then. Alessio?
Yep.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coombs?
Yes.
St. James?
Yes.
And Wilson?
Yes.